Bagseed Chronicles is a podcast about cannabis.
And we just kept smoking it and smoking it and smoking it.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Bagseed Chronicles. I am your host, Uncle Dig. I have a wonderful little show for you today. Rollin' Smokes is joining us to talk gardening and the culture. The cannabis industry became less illegal during the age of crony capitalism. So, of course, the weed industry is kind of sketch and has a bunch of sketch celebrities pushing questionable products. However, the way that you limit your contributions to this pre-apocalyptic phantasmagoria of an industry is to grow your own. While we watch the new Gilded Age race climate for the cause of our nascent doom, let's grow weed together. Uncle Dig's garden update. It is the 8th of February, 2022, and we are in Gardening Zone 8B, and this is Uncle Dig with a garden update. And we are indoors, so the gardening zone doesn't matter as much unless you are the one paying the heat bill. I now have 5 seedlings from the 20 bag seeds I started with. I culled some weaker seedlings, and I up-potted the 5 remaining seedlings, plants now, I guess we would say, into the 2-gallon pots with ocean forest soil with mycorrhizal fungi added at the time of up-potting. I was having trouble deciding whether to top or to do some LST, some low-stress training. But after handling a little deformed seedling I like to call Igor during the up-pot, I have decided to stick to my tried and true method of topping. The plants will have to take a little more time to recover, but that is okay. I want these girls short. They're about 4 inches tall now, maybe. They will most likely be given 2 days to recover from the up-potting before I top them. I don't always do a good job of filling up my tent before flowering, so I'm going to try to let these gals spread out a bit before I flip to flower. Moving outdoors, my chickens are getting big, the new ones, and I'm looking forward to eggs this spring. My other 2 hens have not started laying yet, although I check my coop every other day. They're older hens, so they may not lay that much anymore anyway. So at this point, they're just friendly neighborhood pest control chickens. They're not really providing me any assistance. Now around the property, I've trimmed some trees, and I've been pulling blackberries. Soon I will prune the roses. It's February after all. I always have more yard waste than I know what to do with, and it is good to have a fertile piece of property. I also pruned my witch hazel, which is blooming nicely. Well, that is it for the garden update. Let's get out there and overgrow the damn world. Welcome to the Bagseed Chronicles. Today, I have with me Rollin' Smokes.
Hello.
Welcome to the podcast, Rollin' Smokes. How you been doing?
Good. Real good. How about yourself?
Good. I'm definitely looking forward to the outdoor season. These lights cost money to run.
Oh, definitely. I'm telling you, the outdoor will be good. If we get a little more rain around here in Southern Oregon, it'd really help us.
Yeah. It was shaping up to be a rainy, snowy winter, and then someone shut the faucet off. I don't know what happened.
Yep. Hopefully it'll end up being that way the rest of the half of February here.
And I don't know if you know, but we're coming up on an important date on the podcast. On February 11th, Bagseed Chronicles will be a year old.
Well, there we go. Maybe the rain will happen then.
That would be amazing. So I want to talk to you a little bit about your upcoming grow. I assume you're going to be growing Jaeger again like you usually do.
Yeah, most likely.
Do you plan on any variation this year or anything different?
I might throw CBD in the mix because I've been really craving some CBD tincture. It's just good for the soul.
What strains are you looking at?
I would like to do with probably Katsu.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's the one I really like the best.
And Katsu, is that a Harley Sue mixed with?
Yeah, it is. It's a Harley Sue variant, but it's got the right amount of CBD to THC ratio. It's like an 8-3.
Okay.
Which isn't bad, and I like that kind of variation because I like it more top heavy on the CBD.
Yeah. I know that I grow a strain called CBD Therapy sometimes, and it's no, I'm sorry, not CBD Dutch Treat, and it's a 2-to-1, so it's a
good one.
Yeah, I really like it. It's one of the cultivars that I'm going to continue buying from Crop King Seeds, even though they're not necessarily the most notoriously good seed company. But that every plant that I've popped from the CBD Dutch Treat line that they have has been sweet and definitely rich in CBD and a nice light morning smoke. It's been really nice.
Oh, I imagine. I mean, I like it. It's light. Like you said, it's a light, and it's a good. Yeah, you're right. Morning smoke could be good. I like it in the evening, kind of settle the bones a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Well, my anxiety levels are usually through the roof, so I got to calm the hell down in the morning.
Right. Wake up and slow down.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I wake up like a spring out of the bed. My wife laughs at me. She's like, "You literally just get up and start."
Yeah, that's what you do.
Yeah. No, she's got to like lay in bed for a little while and acclimate to the day.
No, I can't do that.
No, I can't either. I get bored sitting there acclimating.
Yeah, it might have something to do with that military background, though.
Maybe.
Get out of the rack. Oh.
So, I'm also getting ready to grow a strain called Cannatonic. I used to.
Oh yeah, I know Cannatonic.
It used to be. I feel like it used to be everywhere when CBD was first like making its like way into the cannabis scene. And then at a certain point, I didn't see it anymore. And I finally saw someone who was selling seeds, and I bought it. And now I've got it in my seed drawer, and it's going to be one of the ones I try this spring.
Yeah, Cannatonic's a good one. I forgot all about that.
It's like a indica 1-to-1.
My favorite CBD that I'll probably never find again was called Lavender Haze. And it was the most ultimate CBD that I found, and it was a private person out in the valley. And
was that out in not Merlin, but out in we talked about it.
Williams.
Yeah, it was out in Williams, right?
Yeah, and it's 14. It was a true 2-to-1, but it was 14% CBD, 7% THC.
I've actually had you actually shared some with me back then.
Yeah,
and the person that grew it shared some, and it was amazing. I've been looking for it to grow for my partner, and I haven't been able to find it.
Yeah, it's a real different. Yeah, I want it because it grows unusual too. The whole development is way different. It's almost like a Dr. Seuss marijuana plant.
Like, what do you mean? The leaves form different?
It's kind of loose leaf. It's not, the branches come out and there's like big leaves on it. Then the big leaves kind of fall off when the bud develops, and all you got is like bud on it with the little leaves around it. It looks like a Dr. Seuss plant.
Oh,
and it's beautiful. It's just easy maintenance too.
In 2017, I grew like 4 bag seed plants out, and one of them I called Persephone, and it grew like Sideshow Bob's hair.
Right.
But, smaller buds. It was more of a sativa leaner, but it was like green black. It was really dark, and it didn't fall over. It artfully curved. Like when I tell you it looked like Sideshow Bob's hair, that's what it looked like. All the big fan leaves fell off of it in like a day. I was actually worried about it. It developed like a weird iron deficiency, dropped all its plants, and then fixed its own deficiency, and then finished like that. And I was like, it was just weird because usually they'll form colas, but they'll still keep their big bumper leaves, and you'll kind of either have to manage those or kind of cut back some some food and pull those off, or just clip them or let them go depending on your growing approach.
This is true. And sometimes, like you were saying, what happens with plants like that, sometimes they get blocked. And you have to flush the suckers because they'll go, hey. And then if you don't flush them, you're going to just fight it the whole season.
Yeah, and basically by flushing, you mean just give it only water for a while to let it reacclimate, because maybe you gave it too much food, or there's a mismanaged level. Even in organic soil, it can happen. Like sometimes you'll throw a bunch of worm castings on, and maybe that'll be just a bit too much, and the plant will be like, hey, and then you'll do a couple deep water, and it'll even out.
Yes, that's true. And it works really nice, but it's just something people don't realize. They'll just go, oh, something's wrong.
Right.
They should look at it a little harder before they give it more food.
Right, yeah.
Give it a break. Yeah, a lot of people it's first mistakes. Seasoned grower will even do it too because they get lazy.
Oh, and I make mistakes a lot because a lot of times I'll be growing like 6 different photo periods.
Right.
And now I'm growing autoflowers next to them. So a lot of times what'll happen is I'll be mixing nutrients, and I'll realize that I was mixing nutrients for the plants I already fed. So I've got like nutrients just mixed up in this jug, and I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to put this jug aside for a while because I can't use it because it's not for these, and I'll have to wait. So a lot of times I'll have like plants on maybe feeding schedules that aren't perfect for them as individuals, but it's perfect for like the other plant I've kind of arbitrarily put on the same schedule because I can't keep track of it sometimes.
Oh yeah, I could see that happening.
But the reason I do that is because I'm drying in basically a 1-car garage, and I don't like breaking up the branches too much when I'm drying them.
Oh no, you want to keep them as whole as you can.
So what I do is if I have plants finishing, some of my plants finish in late September, and some of them finish, October. I've had one plant finish October 31st was the latest I've had. But that spreads it out. So I'm pulling 1 or 2 plants in at a time. And by the time those are done, it's time to pull the other ones. And that's why I grow like different photo periods.
Yeah, that's with the CBD too. You want to pull them a little earlier. Not early, but earlier than letting them go late, because then you start losing your CBD content.
Right.
And you want it more rich towards the beginning of the season anyways. And that's the only thing about having a CBD plant I'll be aware of. My others go 2nd or 3rd week. The plant itself tells me.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have to even really say, okay, the 3rd week, it's going to be this. My plant will say, hey, look at me. It's time to harvest. I mean, it just gets that look on it.
Yeah.
And it's amazing because it's like the timing is just right when it happens. So.
Puff on that is trying to go out.
We got it going.
We're smoking a joint of some home grow that I grew this
no
last year.
deadheads here.
Oh, so you're thinking about growing a CBD along with the Jaeger?
Yep, just for my own, because I do have some medical knowledge of all of this that's going on, and I've really helped out people with that brand before. I mean, I gave it to my sister. She had cancer.
Yeah.
I made some glycerin with it, and actually it turned out really nice for her. It worked for her to lower her levels so she wouldn't have to do chemo.
Right.
So it's like if I could help somebody else out like that, why not? And plus, I want to give it to people too.
Well, right,
Friends.
yeah.
I want to hand it out because everybody enjoys it. It's good. It tastes good.
I often tell people that the giving away weed is like its own like sick form of addiction.
Right.
And because it's something that like a lot of times when you're growing it, like it's just something you're going to do anyway, right? Like you're going to do this anyway. Like if
you're going to enjoy it.
Right. Like, so I'm going to grow cannabis, whether or not I'm smoking it or giving it to people. Like I'm going to continue to grow it. I like growing it. So like giving it away is a really cool thing to do because a lot of people, it can be expensive and a lot of people like either can't afford it or it's just a fun gift to be able to give. It's like giving someone homemade hot sauce or giving someone like meat that you hunted for. It's that kind of satisfaction almost.
Or veggies. Give them tomatoes,
yeah,
zucchini out of the garden. Same kind of deal. It just gives you a different flavor. And, you know, it makes the world go around too, especially now because it's so prevalent. People are more freely handing it out than ever before.
Yeah, it was interesting. I will say that when I was like moving, when it was medical only, when you and I first started hanging
Right.
out, it seemed like when people would give away cannabis, they would give away larger amounts,
Oh, yeah.
but they didn't give it away as often.
No.
Like I feel like now most of the time, like especially probably next month, me and everyone else will stop giving it away as much because we've been giving away so much. We'll be like, oh, I should probably slow down and smoke some of this myself. And then around February, and then right in summer, it'll slow down even more because people won't have that big outdoor harvest they're sitting on.
Right.
And then harvest will come, and then everyone will start handing it out like it's Pop Rocks.
That's true. And it's funny because at that time I have a friend that works at a service station down here. And during harvest season, he gets all flavors. He gets the barn hay flavor. He gets the over crispy done dry. I mean, he gets all variants. And he's like, and it all kind of sucks because nobody's taking the time. He said they wouldn't be giving it to me now if they were taking the time. And he's right, kind of, because if you take your time with it and let it slowly cure in, it just tastes better.
Well, yeah, I feel like there's. Oh, okay, you're done.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a art to the cure, the dry and then the cure that a lot of people don't. They don't take the time to do it. Right.
The dry is the hardest part because there's a fine line between dry, right?
Yeah.
Dried perfect or mold. I mean, it's going to be wet or it's going to be dry. And there's a fine line, and a lot of people don't know that fine line of where your dry is. And then all of a sudden they're like, I thought it was dry, and it's moldy because there's still moisture in the plant. There's a lot more moisture going on than people sometimes realize.
Well, I think people ought to often erroneously assume. I just had a buddy that just grew 2 beautiful outdoor plants, first ones he ever did, but he's a fish guy. Mm-hmm. So he was giving them fish water periodically. Mm-hmm. So when I tell you the purples were purple, the purples were purple. Mm-hmm. They were beautiful plants. Hung them up in his garage. I'm like, hey, bro, you need to get a dehumidifier. If you're in Washington, you need to get a dehumidifier. He's like, oh, it's fine. It's taking a while to dry though. I'm like, dude, you need to get a dehumidifier. He's like, well, what should I set up? I'm like, no, you just need to put a dehumidifier in there and then leave it.
Yeah.
And then he's like, what about temperature? I'm like, honestly, bro, temperature isn't as much of a problem as because it wasn't getting hot.
Right.
So hot heat's going to burn off your terpenes. Cold, you can run into problems with some mold.
Yep.
But the humidity is the main thing you need to worry about. And it molded out on him. He lost it all. Yep. And when I tell you, Bob, like he was a first-time grower, and I was jealous of the bud he grew. Mm-hmm. It all molded out. It's gone.
Yeah, it's because he didn't know how to dry it. And see, and that's when you said dehumidifier, you should have been listening to him, because that's a key factor in drying, is to get it, because you can get surface dry, but you want inner dry in that bud, and to get that you need to dehumidify it.
Well, but and there's exceptions to that, because sometimes I don't know, my garage, especially I'm down in the valley, it'll be October and we'll have a 90-degree day.
That's true.
And then guess what? All my humidity in my garage is just sucked out, and I'll have a humidity drop, and I have to add a humidifier.
Right.
If I don't, my plants will go from under dried to like snapped, crackle, done, like so dry, like you can just crunch them and they'll just fall apart in your hand. And that's another way you can think, oh, let me heat up this room to 80 degrees and pull all the humidity out of it and let me quick dry it. And what you'll end up with is crap, because you don't want to do it too fast.
I try to keep it at about a 70 to 72 degrees.
Yeah.
With the dehumidifier.
Okay.
And it takes me about 5 days generally, and then I start feeling the bud. Okay. And then I'll know the outside leaf always gets crispy. But the way I do it is, as everybody should, is when your stem cracks. Yeah. That's dry enough. And that's as soon as mine gets to that first crack is when I pull it. Okay. Because I want to save some of the moisture that's in it. Yeah. So when I'm curing it, I work out a little bit of the moisture, but not enough to mold it.
But you're not going straight into jars. You're going into totes, right?
Right.
So you go from hang in your garage about 5 to 7 days, sometimes 8 or 9 if they're drying slow.
Right.
And then you cut it into about foot-light, 6-foot long sections, maybe 24 inches depending on the size of the bins you're using. And then you give it what I would consider a very light trim. You're basically knocking off anything that was bumper leaf. Anything with sugar is going with it into the bins, right? Then an indeterminate amount of days later, it could be anywhere from a week to a month sometimes, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's getting handed to you or a relative, mainly you, and you're going to open that up and you're going to finish the trim, and then it's going into jars, right? And that's for the long-term storage.
Yeah. If I want to, or I will just leave it because it's still with the outside core on it.
Yeah.
Leaving it in the bins is fine until you need to trim it up.
Okay.
Yeah. You can leave it as long as it doesn't get hot.
Okay.
It needs to stay below 70 at that point.
So that's one of the main differences between how you're doing it and how I'm doing it. Is
Correct.
because there's no bins. For me, I'm going but I dry a little more than you do.
Yeah, because you're going straight to jars.
Straight into jars. But see, you still with the jars, when you're burping it, you need to be smelling it.
Oh yeah.
And some weed will trick you. Some weed will have kind of a weird ammonia smell to it, and it'll be fine. But if you're getting that strong, you need to pull it out of your jars. You need to lay it out on a very clean surface and just leave it there in a drier room for like 2 hours. Get it back in the jar because that ammonia smell is and it'll be really faint. But if you start to smell that, you'll feel the bud and the moisture from the core, like you're talking about, will have worked its way to the outside. And you'll have realized that you maybe need to dry it a little bit more, especially when you're going directly into jars.
Oh, yeah.
Now, with the bins are there's just enough air exchange with the outside air with those bins that if you get a little bit of like ammonia buildup, like you're talking about the plants going anaerobic or creating a perfect environment for mold, that's going to let that bad air is not the right word, but it's going to let that bad air out. It's going to let the plant breathe just enough. It buys you a little bit of time.
Oh yeah.
And so you're not dealing with that flash mold.
You got to rotate it in the bin too.
Oh, okay.
Because the moisture will go down.
Yeah.
And on the top will be dry and the moisture will be down.
Oh boy.
So you got to flip it. You got to flip it all like about 3 times.
Okay.
And then you're fine.
Okay.
Yeah, throughout like a month, and then it's perfect. It's
so,
all
same thing in a jar. If you burp a jar and you don't shake up the bud real good,
exactly.
Like it'll be perfect up top, and this happened to me my first year in one jar. Thank God, just one jar. I got down to the bottom, and it was like it didn't mold on me, but it was like stale and like not icky's not the right word. It was still usable, but it was a far lower quality product than the stuff at the top of the jar.
Sprouts.
It was take your medicine and you're not going to enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I've had really good success. The one time I actually kept weed a long time, the first year I grew a lot, I was able to keep a particular strain that yielded a lot for 2 years before it became like basically unsmokable.
Yeah, I've had really good success with what I've done, especially with the Jaeger for some reason. Its longevity is amazing, and it seems like the longer it goes, the stronger it gets. It's just that it starts getting really dry and brittle is a problem with it, and that's even shunning it, keeping it out of the light, keeping it a dark spot, keeping it good temp. I mean, sooner or later, I think all of it goes to pot.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting. I think now, like, one of the reasons I'm continuously growing is because I'm hoping eventually to have a big surplus again so that I start running out some jars.
Well, it's really funny you say that. I start because my wife, previous to us getting married, didn't smoke as much as she does now. And we were talking about it. She goes, well, how much do we smoke? And I was telling her, and she was like, oh, my God. And I said, and then when we go into the dispensary or something, she's like, holy crap, that would cost. I said, I know. Yeah. That's why we grow our own. Yeah. And she started going, we consume so much.
Yes.
And when you start getting on that about how much you're consuming, it starts realizing how much you're going through a year. That's when the drying and the curing all comes into the bottom end. The bottom end payload is that.
Well, and I think people hearing us, like, in our circles, like when we go someplace, one of the first things that happens is people break out the herb, right? So like,
Yes.
and so like we'll show up at a place like somewhere out, and he'll be sitting around a table, and you'll see, right now, literally there's a nug from my garden, and you can tell it looks different. It's definitely but it's not something he got at a dispensary either, and you could tell that. And then there's another nug that he grew, and I think someone else grew that, right?
No, this is all mine.
Oh, that's all you?
Yeah.
So, but there's a purple, and then there's this greener Jaeger that you haven't trimmed because you're trimming it up before you smoke it, right?
Yeah. It's just I leave on these chewy buds, and as I'm breaking it apart and playing with it, it ends up looking all nice and trim.
Okay.
As I'm smoking it, because I pull off the little leaves as
Right.
I'm sitting here. Pretty soon it looks clean as can be after like, a day and a half. It's perfectly clean. It's really funny because everybody's like, that looks ugly. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't understand what's underneath.
It's that all that ugly stuff is
This
keeping
is-
it nice.
Yeah, this is what it looks like. This is the top,
Yep.
as you can see. But, the density,
Yeah, it's next level dense. It's like,
it's that. And the smoke that, you got to break it up a little bit.
oh yeah.
Or else you're not going to enjoy the whole.
You're not popping that nug into a bowl and finishing
That's
it
so
off.
true. That's so true.
Well, and I think that people and you grow in the ground.
Yes.
And I think people don't realize, like, I grow in large containers, and it's not the same.
No, it isn't. But everybody has their way of doing it.
But what I think is there's unique like flavors and ways the plants can do when you just stick it in the ground. And now you're going to do some hole preparation normally. You're not just sticking it in native soil.
No.
But when you grow it in the ground, it performs differently. Like, I've never seen larger finished buds. And I know not everyone's looking for larger buds, but I enjoy them. And I've never seen larger buds than on plants that are in the ground.
That's true. I mean, you go to a dispensary, you don't even see big buds. To be honest with you, when we were doing medical, you saw big buds.
Well, isn't that part of the market that people have it in their head that they don't want to pay for stems?
Well, kind of, but to be truthful with it, I mean, I was in the market, and we created on the medical end because you were getting the premium buds, you were getting the tops. You knew you were getting the tops of these big buds when you were buying them. So you were getting good buds. They were like gram buds.
Yeah.
But they were decent size, in your pound that you were getting.
Okay.
But when then all of a sudden they had like your not so good buds, you'd have your grade A, B, and C when we were doing medical distribution. And the A buds went for more, the B buds went for less. And then we had what you call these little tiny ones that you get at the dispensary now. We used to call those nuglets.
I call them popcorn buds.
Yeah, we called them nuglets, which is, kind of little nugs.
Yeah.
So they're nuglets because we had big nugs, better nugs. Anyways, and those went for cheap. I mean, it was like when 1,500 was a pound in medical. Then we had like the medium grade for 1,000. The nuglets went for 600 a pound. So when I see this, when I go in the dispensary and they pop that open, first thing I think of is cheap bud.
Yeah.
First thing. So I'm going, what happened to all those tops in this rack?
Oh, I think you and I both know where the tops went.
Yeah, the tops disappeared.
Every year, Sasquatch's cousin comes from back east, and he buys up all the tops, and then they smoke it out on the mountain, and then none of us get it.
That's right. I believe it. I believe they have a good time.
Oh man, yeah, it's so funny how you know what's gonna happen as soon as they legalize nationwide, whenever that does happen. This whole problem that we're having locally with outdoor illegal cultivation on large scale is gonna go away.
It'll disappear, and it'll be you know what's ironic? I don't I'm trying not to be political here or anything.
Yeah.
But the government, the reason why they haven't, because they don't want to to worry about it and whatnot, but they want control of it.
Yeah.
So if they legalized it, guess what? That means they could actually put the money in the bank, so they would control it. So
Yeah.
I don't understand it.
Well, but also, the other thing people don't think about it, the reason that this outdoor cultivation problem will go away is because there will be large outdoor cultivation. It will just be done by large corporations. And
Yep.
why would you go cannabis in the mountains of Oregon, outdoors with all of the challenges, the water, getting the water out to those farms and everything, all of the challenges that entails, when if it's legalized nationally, I could grow it in Kansas.
Right.
Why would you grow it here? Well, the answer is they won't. They'll grow it everywhere.
Well,
it won't just be here.
The answer is you're right about that. But guess what? The quality of different pot from different areas will be different for sure. But everybody knows that this area, for some reason, seems to be the golden triangle.
Yeah, and I think you're right. And traveling since I became a cannabis enthusiast, I have noticed a different. But there's also part of the problem is a lot of the quality bud that people say is from California is actually from Southern Oregon.
That's
so I
true.
feel like I've been, back east as it were, and I'm smoking very similar weed.
Well, yes. I mean, yes, I know stuff. I mean, I have friends that still dabble in that black market, and I know some of the stuff from here definitely goes back to back east. And I'm not
No
talking
doubt.
little quantities. I'm talking like big truckloads going back. It isn't. It's quite the racket, and I don't know where or how they're doing that. I just know it's happening.
Yeah, and I think everyone who has been growing in on the West Coast pretty much in any of the like big cultivation areas like NorCal, Southern Oregon, up to Eugene. If you're from that area and you cultivate, you kind of know like, hey, a lot of this stuff isn't staying here. You just know it, and like you don't, and it's not always where you're working, but maybe at the place your buddy's working, maybe there. You don't know, but it's happening. And I think a lot of what's happened recently, something that I didn't expect, was when the larger illegal organizations moved. I thought that when the BLM grows stopped, that they would just go somewhere else to cultivate. And what happened is they just started renting places.
Yeah, they just rented people's properties and started growing, which was really ironic. And
Well, it made it safer to go four-wheeling and to go into the recreational areas, but it made some of the other rural areas kind of sketchy.
Well, what it did was bring in a populace too into our neighborhood, which is I have two actually. I have one above me and one below me that have done that renting of their property.
Oh boy.
And in Josephine County, I know the law just because my stepdaughter was a grand jury person.
Yeah.
Is that if you allow someone to grow on your property, because you're the owner, you have to be diligent in the background check. And they are illegal growing on your property, you will lose your property in Josephine County. It was voted in 2020. So my scary point of that is people here in Josephine County, do your background work, please, because I know all of you that are doing this have had your property for a while, and I'd hate to see you lose it over a wrong move. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, and right now we're not talking about normal home growers or medical cultivators with a 12-plant garden. We're talking guys are renting out their property, sometimes sight unseen.
Yep.
And then people are coming out and they are doing
Oh, yeah.
large-scale cultivations. And you'll see in the news periodically Josephine County and Jacksophine. That's a stoner mistake. Jacksophine County, the twin counties of Josephine and Jackson. Jacksophine County.
Jacksonville, well, yeah.
I don't even I don't know about you, but I almost act like there's not a county line in between us a lot of times.
Yeah, you're right on that because of the way the scales of grows are. You look around, it's the same in Josephine as it is in Jackson. I mean, these are great areas. The only problem with these, these illegal grows as we're talking that are come in from, they're not growing in the BLM no more. They're growing at people's property.
Yeah, and it's not. And I want to say something. It's not just Mexicans.
No,
I've been hearing some very interesting accents in the grow shop as of late.
no, it isn't just. And it isn't so much Mexicans anymore. But if you would say Latino and you go down a little further, like Guatemalan,
like Colombians and stuff,
Colombia and stuff, that's where it's
and
coming
I
in.
feel like there's
And
Israelis and Eastern Europeans too.
There's Asian, there's Russian, there's Israelis. There's a lot of different cultures here right now doing this. Everybody's looking at us as a gold mine.
Yeah.
But in doing so, there's some stuff that people got to realize. And I, from being in college a few years ago, learned about this. And I didn't realize there's so much human trafficking in the state of Oregon. And this is something that's coming even bigger than it was before. I mean, it was just something. Now with these grows, they're not really. People aren't thinking about that, but there is a lot of human trafficking. They're bringing these people from their own countries and making them work, and then they're just dumping them. They're running the money and just leaving them after the grows.
That's really messed up.
It is. So as a society, if we really look at this, sometimes we're all like, no, we don't want to do anything. We don't want to step up. But you don't have to really step up, but you can say something to somebody, and that's all you got to do.
Yeah, I feel like our scene for a long time has had like a fraught relationship with law enforcement. And I'm not even saying call the cops. I'm not saying report these people, but you got to think, because they're not here as medical activists. I mean, and so like we've all seen austere conditions on grow ops before. We've seen, if you've trimmed at 10 grows, you've probably slept in a tent before, if you're going back long enough as a trimmer. But and they're doing that, but what also is happening, they're not paying people. Like back in the day in the medical scene, there was like a problem of some people not paying people, but I hear it's off the charts at some of these illegal grows.
Well, that's another thing too, is they're bringing in the labor and not paying them. And what they're doing is they're justifying, because they're saying your family will stay alive since you're doing this. It isn't okay. And it's funny you say that, because back in the medical day, it was like you actually made more money for trimming than you do now.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I mean, you made a
it
lot
was
more
worth
money.
sleeping in a tent and shitting in a hole.
It was. But now you're a rec farmer, you're a minimum wage job, just like pumping gas,
Right.
So it's like, it's kind of funny. The only thing is that you can title yourself as working on a weed farm.
Yeah, and I feel, I don't know, like I've always been, really proud to be like kind of semi-involved in some medical grows when I am, and like when I was helping you trim in and doing a little bit of security, I always was proud to be like part of the scene and participating and stuff. But I don't know if that same pride kind of exists on the rec side the same way, because we were at the end of the day, we were growing medicine so people could feel better. And I don't know if that is the same thing. Yeah.
It's lost. That's true. It has lost. People lost about but guess what? This new wave of disease we got, COVID, just brought something to light for everybody. All of a sudden, CBD is popular because there's a possibility it will help with it.
Well, and I think if you actually look at the research, I'm not trying to rain on everybody's parade, but I think that the best way you get those two acids into you that they're saying might help with the spike protein regeneration, I think the way you get those is by eating the cannabis. It's not by smoking, folks.
Correct.
No.
Correct.
I'm not going to stop smoking, and I know you're not going to stop smoking.
I mean, I was in the medical field, and the thing about smoking actually will help with your anxiety, might help with your nauseas and everything else. But if you want internal healing, really internal healing, like for what they're talking about, even with the cancer patients, that's all internal ingestion.
Yeah, it's high dose edibles.
Yeah, I mean, the first person, Rick Simpson oil, everybody should know that. He's the first one that proved that it would work for curing things. And that was all ingested, not smoked.
I actually allegedly made some Rick Simpson oil in my backyard one time for one of my friends who had cancer. I had a bunch of trim that was actually some CBD, and it was one of the ones that I kind of leaned indica, and I'm like, this would be perfect.
Right.
And so, boom. And I knocked some out, and I gave it to her, and she's still alive, so either her chemo worked or the weed worked. But if you use both,
guess what? When you use both, this is what I do know about using both at the same time, is at least you got to add a little THC to that.
Yes.
The reason why I say that is because then they can start to eat. And guess what? Part of chemo is you don't feel like eating or doing anything, so your energy levels zapped. So if you can eat and get some energy, you might survive.
Yeah, and it was an indica leaner CBD. It was like
There
a 2 to
you
1.
go.
So it was like a 4% T8. It was like a 4% CBD and like a 8% CBD. I like those.
Yeah, winter chicken dinner.
THC. So it was a little higher, so they were still getting that. And when you concentrate something like that down into Rick Simpson oil, it's just, it doesn't matter really how much CBD or THC. It's gonna get you. When I tell people, like, when you're dealing with Rick Simpson oil or like some of these other heavy duty edible concentrates, like eating beyond a certain amount isn't fun. You're just gonna pass out.
Yeah. The best thing about edibles is take one, wait a half hour, 45 minutes, see how you feel. Then take another one if you think you need one. But by the time you take that third one because you think you might need it, you're going to be asleep.
Oh yeah, done.
Yep.
I've tried to hallucinate or like trip on cannabis so many times, and I'll always almost get there. I'll be right, and then I'll pass out. I'll be asleep, and it's done. It's done. And so I've never really had one of those. Like, I had a trippy experience one time with high dose edibles and smoking, and it was just a weird night, but. I think there was other stuff involved.
Oh my gosh, you're killing me, because I remember before I went in the service, me and a friend of mine, we were trying to smoke.
Yeah.
We bought a Fat 8, and we were going to smoke the Fat 8 down that night because we were going to see stuff. We were going to hallucinate.
Oh yeah.
And we just kept smoking it and smoking it and smoking it. And I'll never forget, we thought we were hallucinating a little bit, and then it was like we just passed out.
Yeah.
So it was like, it was. And when you say that, I think about that, and then I think about that. That's how you overdose too, is you just pass out.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's.
That's the best part of it. You just go to sleep.
Yeah, that's what's great about cannabis. Yeah. You can do way too much, and you'll still be fine.
You wake up in the morning feeling great.
Yeah. I think the longer you consume cannabis, you can like push that amount that you can consume in one sitting to ridiculous amounts, but it's also a little bit silly at that point, because I think at a certain point you're not getting that much higher.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with that. I mean, it's fun to smoke and then quit for about an hour and then smoke some more, and then it's like me, being retired now. It's been kind of a good thing and a bad thing. I think I smoke way too much weed, but that's okay. That's a good thing, because I can now.
Well, yeah, doing this podcast and like being semi-retired, like I don't really do like a lot, but I have been smoking a lot of cannabis.
Yeah.
And to the point now where when I tell you I need to just continuously grow it all the time now, if I want to smoke home grow, I'm not even lying. I just need to grow autoflowers and photos and just constantly grow it to keep up with my habit.
Well, yeah. After this, I'll show you how much I got for my habit for the year.
That's so much weed.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Well, I had a great conversation with you, Rollin' Smokes. Thanks for coming on to the Bagseed Chronicles.
You too. Thank you for having me. I enjoy this, and have a really good stone day.
I always do. I enjoy our conversations. I'll see you next time. Let's overgrow the world.
You can reach me, Uncle Dig, on Instagram at Uncle Dig. The bumper music on this podcast was produced by Chad DeVilliers on ukulele. He can be followed on YouTube at Ukuleles Are Stupid, or on Instagram at Chadwick Enterprises.